Hello everyone, welcome to another video here on my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another flip through of some work I've been doing in my sketchbook. This is actually the second prompt list that I'm going to be showing you. On the channel I have already done a winter prompt list and I've shared the work that I created from those prompts. So in this video I want to show you all of the drawings that I've done relating to my spring prompt list. Each season I am listing or coming up with a list of prompts for the season, and they can be done however frequently you want, whether you just do one every couple of weeks, or if you're really enjoying the prompt then you might want to do lots of drawings related to the prompt. But basically they are to get you going outside, drawing from what's in front of you and seeing life around you. The intention is that they take you out of your home, out of your studio and into nature, looking at the landscape around you. So whether you spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes outside drawing or longer, I see a real benefit in actually drawing from life and from what is in my surroundings. I produced a course on sketching on location and released that earlier in the year in January, and really that's at the essence of what I like to do when I'm using my sketchbooks. I use them to document my everyday life and just really look at the landscape around me. It just helps me to see what is in my environment. It also helps me to switch off from things that maybe are dominating my thoughts. I've always find when I'm sketching from what is in front of me, I am able to push down any anxieties or concerns that I might have, and my attention is fully on what is in front of me. So I find it a really good thing to do and try to do that regularly. So these prompts actually really do help to motivate me to go out, particularly when the weather isn't so good. Over the spring they helped because we had quite a wet spring, combination of wild winds and wet days. So these spring prompt lists helped me and pushed me to give me a focus to go out. So these are the prompts that were offered for spring. We had 10 weeks and each week I introduced a new prompt. So we had clouds, stream, sunlight, soil, greenhouse, garden, birds, morning, blossom and grass. So I'm going to share what I drew for those prompts. I'll talk about what I used and perhaps what I remember of the experience, and I'll also put in some clips that I took on my phone as I was doing the prompt, which might be helpful for you to see. Again, I'm still using my two sketchbooks. Actually, I finished this just last week, so that is due for a proper sketchbook tour, so I will have to be doing that at some point. And it's a Moleskine. This is probably one of my favourite brands to use, is a Moleskine. The paper is just the right thickness for me, and it takes a lot of different media, which is what I want. And then the second sketchbook that I use is this one from Ranger, Delusions Creative Journal, and this one is square format, so 8¼ by 8¼ inches, and then opens up to a nice landscape. So let's start with clouds. That was the first prompt for the springtime. And I do remember this first day here of doing the prompts was wild and windy. It was so wild, in fact, that I couldn't draw it outside. I had to stay in my car. So I was able to drive up to where I wanted to sketch. I thought I'd be able to get out and draw, but the wind was so strong I couldn't actually keep my sketchbook from blowing about. So I just drew it from the window of my car. Hi everyone, today is the 1st of March and the start of my spring prompts. So the first prompt is clouds, and I am drawing this view. It is also very cold outside and the wind is coming straight off the sea, which is why I'm in my car studio this time. So here are all my sketching materials, and here is my finished sketch. I took 20 minutes and used watercolours to begin with, and then a little bit of Payne's Grey Neocolour, and I think I used watercolour for the sky, and then also went over with a pip pencil just to add a little bit of movement so you can maybe see that it is quite windy outside. As you can see, the colour palette here is still quite muted, it's still quite wintry. My watercolours from the Derwent watercolours set with a couple of pencils. So I think Payne's Grey and also an intense Ionian green. So as you can see, it's quite blustery. I also used my oil pit pencil to give some expressive lines on that one. The next page here is also with the theme, the same prompt, clouds, but I had a visitor, and so the visitor became my subject for this prompt. I've just turned up in my new location to draw, and look who's just turned up. So my plan is to just draw some of the clouds here. They're not very spectacular today. They're quite, well, they're not really very dramatic. They're just very cloudy, overcast. But yeah, and I've got my pal with me. Okay, so the robin has now featured in my sketch. He's still there. Just been chatting to him really about his portrait, like what he would like. Yeah, so there he is. I probably will end up putting more details on him, and probably the background as well. Didn't intend to capture him, but he kind of, you know, sat there watching, so yeah, he's ended up in the picture. Here's my finished sketch for the prompt, clouds. I've actually put clouds with Robin because Robin has taken over centre stage. I used mostly these watercolours and then worked on top with some pencils, Tombow and some Neocolours. The palette, as you can see, is starting to warm up a little bit. I did bring it in, I think it was a tangerine and a burnt ochre at 50%. Mostly though because of the bird being in the picture. So the next prompt was stream, and we are in this one. I do remember this day. It was very wet. I was actually leading a drink and draw workshop at Halford in the Shipwrights. It was March the 11th, and yeah, it was really kind of drizzly and one of those kind of miserly days that we have in Cornwall. I knew that there was a stream there and thought, okay, let's just get on and do this. So you'll see in a lot of these prompts that I am drawing on top of painted pages. And in this one, the pages were already painted like a dark grey. So I've gone over the inky base with neocolours, and then there are also some pencil work as well, again using the Pitt pencil for movement lines and just to give some life to the drawing. You can also see the use of some of the brighter greens as well, which were coming out at that time, you know, moving into spring. We started to see some new growth, which was really nice to see. So the next prompt was sunlight, and this was the drawing that I did for that prompt. I remember this well because I was also recording a podcast. So I record a podcast called Explore and Draw. It's just an audio podcast, so it hasn't got any visuals, but I do take pictures along the way. And so I kind of combined the two together, recording this podcast and then also having the focus of sunlight for the theme. And it was a very misty morning and there was sunlight at this point, but as I was drawing there, the sunlight was being engulfed by the mist. So I eventually did end up just being completely engulfed with mist. But when I started, there was sunlight and I could see areas that were light and then areas that were dark. This way of working again, I worked on top of pre-painted pages and I just felt like there was a lot of freedom, really energetic movements, and I don't know, it just felt a lot freer creating this piece. It's not tight. I just used Neocolour 2 to draw this with little bits of detail. You can see there's some birds here and then just little kind of spots to indicate that there were cows, because there were cows kind of on the cliff. I'm just standing kind of at the top of a cliff looking across. It was, believe it or not, sunny a minute or so ago, or maybe 5 minutes ago, and the mist has just descended, the sea mist. So before, the mist was just hanging around down the bottom, and now it's kind of engulfed me and everything up here. This is the sketch, so there was a lot more sunlight, and then the mist was just on the horizon coming in. This is definitely a bit more of a scribbly sketch for me, more gestural, a bit more abstract, but yeah, it's for my prompt, sunlight, joy of sketching outside. The fourth prompt was soil, and this was the page that I created for soil. This actually again was another podcast that I did for my Explore and Draw podcast. So again, I do remember walking up to this. You can listen to it on my Substack, or you can find it, I think, on any podcast app. Just look for Explore and Draw. And you can see that my focus was on the burnt gorse. And I knew that they had just had a season where they burned the gorse to make way for new growth that would come up in May time. And I thought, well, that would be cool because there'd be soil. So I wanted my attention to be on the soil. So this one I actually used my Lamy fountain pen, which I haven't used for quite some time. I thought that would give me some interesting line work, and I particularly loved the way that the sticks and the gorse, I really loved the way the gorse was, very sculptural. Again, this was done on top of pre-painted pages, so you can see it was like quite a light brown that was there with a little bit of apricot colour. And then you can also see that I added in some purple. So my Neocolour purple and greens, some brighter greens. Again, that kind of spring growth, the growth that comes at springtime. And all over the soil there were like these little flecks of flowers. There were all these little flowers, dog violets, and then some gorse as well. So even though they had burnt a lot, there was already new life coming up, which was really inspiring. Here I am sketching. I'm using the prompt soil, and I'm just sketching the burnt gorse with new life of some new gorse and also some dog violets. So the next prompt is greenhouse, and this was the spread for that one. We're in April now, and you can see a lot of green was used. This again was done on top of pre-painted pages, and they were green, so I thought that would be great. I can just work on top. So I used a Neocolour white, or I think it might have been a lighter, maybe a very light grey, just to give me a framework. And then the blue, there were some really nice blue sheds in the gate, really quite striking colours. I thought that would be great to put in there. Today's prompt is greenhouse, and I found this old greenhouse surrounded by lots and lots of umbellifers. I thought it was the great subject to draw. I pre-painted these pages with a bit of green and then drew on top with Neocolours, and I just love how hidden this greenhouse is amongst all of the greenery. It's definitely a greenhouse. These actual trees, I think I added afterwards. I didn't add when I was there, but there were a lot of trees around the area, and I thought actually having some trees might just help ground it a little bit more. You can see that it was a very harmonious colour palette as well, blues and greens together. So the next prompt is garden. And this is actually the spread that I did for garden. We don't have a garden at our flat, but I knew there were lots of gardens around the area, and I thought this was really a lovely time to actually capture the new flowers that were coming up. So these are bluebells, and these were actually spilling out of someone's garden. So I thought it was just really fun just to kind of do a bit more focus on flowers that I was seeing in the area. And then I did this spread first, and then I walked a bit further and then saw these coming out the bottom of a garden gate, which is what that brown shapes are there. So, and there were just these really interesting leaves and a few three-cornered leek, and I just loved these leaves that were there. So I thought it was really fun just to do this spread. Again, greens, blues, purples, harmonious colour palette. Now the next prompt was birds. So this was my bird spread. I wanted to draw from life, and so I was trying to find some birds that I could draw, you know, that I knew would be there. So I went to Roskillie Farm and saw these few geese. They were quite moody geese on patrol, and I thought it'd be fun to try and sketch them. So this isn't like lots of different geese. This is one or two geese that I was watching and then just tried to quickly draw or try to quickly capture. It was quite actually hard because I thought they wouldn't move that much, but they did. They moved quite a lot. Next prompt was morning, and we go back to this book. I have a couple of drawings. Now, this isn't quite in the right order because I had painted pages. I was kind of trying to find a page that would lend itself to the subject that I was drawing. So this was done on the 7th of May. This was of Housel Bay. This again was actually done as part of my podcast as well. So if you want to listen to me creating this, then there's a podcast that you can listen to. So this was a very early morning, and I just loved the softness of the light. It wasn't really bright sunshine, it was just kind of a little bit of mist on the horizon, and you could and very warm as well, like humid. So I was trying to kind of capture that with some of the colour, and also I just loved again working on top of the painted pages that were already there. The cliffs were all in full bloom, so all of the flowers and grass had all come out, so very kind of bright and lush. And then the second drawing I did for that theme, or for the prompt, light. This was really early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and again I wanted to focus on contrasts here and get some value, so on this side it's a lot lighter, here it's darker. So I wasn't really focused on the colour so much, more of the contrast that was there. But a really beautiful time of day to draw, especially when there's no one else around and it's a nice day. There's nothing that beats it, just being able to just draw what you see and be immersed in the landscape around you. So the next prompt was blossom. And I actually did these two the other way round. So this was my blossom prompt. I had gone to Cornwall to drop off, I think, some cards with them. And there were some great blossom trees everywhere. So for some reason, the hawthorn was just abundant in blossom this year. Everywhere, down the lanes, everywhere you're going, just this really gorgeous, creamy, pinky blossom. And it was just so beautiful. There were so many times when I wanted to just draw it from the car, but sometimes that's just not possible. But anyway, there was some blossom, and I drew this one on that theme. And you can see pinks are coming in here, then the yellows, blues of the sky. And then this was the prompt for grass. Again, this one probably could have focused a bit more. I was probably distracted actually by the trees, but there was grass in there, and I just used my Neo colours, and this was actually drawn whilst I was waiting for Tony. He was in an appointment, so I thought I'd just draw whilst I waited, and there was a grassy field in front of me, and I thought I'd just draw that. So that worked, and that was all of my prompts. As you can see, there are more drawings in here, but I wanted to just show you the ones that were inspired by those prompts. So I want to now just take you through again some of the colours and materials that I used this time. I thought I'd show you, this was winter's colour palette here, and I wanted to see if there was any difference really in what I was using. But there may be a slight difference, maybe more pinks, maybe more greens, but I thought you might find it interesting. I have grouped them again, blues, greens, and then pinky, orangey, yellow colours together. And this time I'll just put the colours on the screen as I'm doing it so that you can see what's there. turquoise blue, turquoise green, then a Neocolour Payne's Grey, Payne's Grey Luminance. Look how small that is. Now definitely a new addition was the lavender. Then we've just got a couple of Inktense pencils. Contrasts already. Definitely we've got more of these brighter colours, and then the lavender as well. There aren't really as many greys either. I think maybe this was a new addition. So this is a cold grey, this is Faber-Castell watercolour marker. Okay, time for the greens. Now this was a new pencil colour. I think this might have come in later in the challenge. This is an earth green. You'll see it's quite close to that green. It's a nice light green, lime green, that one. A lemon yellow. This is a moss green. It's luminance, that's a moss green. And that is definitely a spring. The greens, we've got a lot more variance in the greens here, especially the lighter greens. This one. That one is a apple green. Okay, and now we have got what I'm just kind of putting in pinks. Got a tangerine, Neocolour. This olive brown, raw umber, well, a raw umber, but this sepia use, and a bark. I don't think I put that in the winter one, but I probably did use it. But the oil pit pencil. Gradually, you can see there is a little bit of a shift in the colour palette actually. Definitely a lot more brighter and sharper colours coming in there. And I didn't use my watercolours so much. I know in actually the first couple of pieces I did, I haven't swatched them here, but then once I started kind of painting my pages with inks beforehand, I found that I wasn't feeling like I needed to use watercolour as my ground. I just went straight in with Neocolours on top, and then if I wanted to loosen up the colour, then I could come in with one of my water brushes and just kind of loosen them up that way. So yeah, that's interesting actually to think about. I really did enjoy sketching on top of pre-painted pages. There's something, it stimulated my brain in a different way, kind of almost like a challenge. How can I create on top of this ground? And then, you know, there were, for instance, if I look here, you can definitely see that kind of peachy, pinky colour coming through, being more dominant and kind of leading the way on the colour front. And sometimes I wouldn't have thought maybe of having that kind of colour. So that's why I think I liked having the pre-painted pages, because it brought something that I wouldn't have necessarily put there myself. And that can then push my work in a new direction in a different way. So yeah, I really did enjoy doing that over this season. And it definitely also made the time go quicker as well. So it felt like it gave me, you know, 10 minutes more that I wouldn't have necessarily had, because it meant that I didn't have to do that first layer. It was already there. So it sped up the time I spent outside, which was good at times because it was still, you know, at times either wet or drizzly, or it was very blowy. So it meant that I felt more satisfied with what I produced, even though I wasn't out as long as I could have been. And I am continuing with the next lot of prompts. I started them in June, so I've created another 10 prompts for June, July, August, and hopefully at the end in September I will share the next lot of drawings that I've created from those prompts. You're very welcome to join in, and you'll find all the prompts listed on the community tab on YouTube. You'll also find them on my Instagram, although at the moment I'm not posting on Instagram as much as I have done in the past. Just trying to kind of wean myself off the app. So I will be sharing though more on YouTube and sharing things that I've created from those prompt lists. So yeah, I'm excited to see what summer brings. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and comment below. It'd be great to hear if you've made it to the end. If you have, why not write spring greens? Thanks so much for watching again, guys. All your support is very much appreciated, whether that's you subscribe to the channel or like or comment. It's very much appreciated and is helpful for helping my channel to grow and helping it reach other people. I hope you're well, and I'll speak to you again very soon.